Hey Rebels, what if I told you there was a way you could improve your sleep, your cognitive performance, concentration, and mood, and it didn't involve taking any drugs or supplements? Would you be all in? I want to share something that I love and I do every day, and I think you might like it too. It's called the Ambient Sounds Meditation for Women podcast. Imagine you put this on every day as you're working or going throughout your day or falling asleep, and it helps soothe you. That's what this meditation is all about, helping us be our best. And I love it. The Ambient Sounds Meditation for Women is part of the Women's Meditation Network. I love this particular meditation because it helps me feel my best. And I easily get distracted, so putting this on as I'm working helps keep me calm and helps with my concentration. I think you might like it too. I encourage you to follow the Ambient Sounds Meditation for Women wherever you listen to podcasts and start listening for free today. Just search Ambient Sounds Meditation for Women on your favorite podcast app and follow, or visit womensmeditationnetwork.com. Don't you deserve more calm and focus in your life? Your midlife body can be as fierce and fabulous as you want it to be. Yes, you and me too. But like anything good, it comes with effort and intention. Plus, a whole lot of information and inspiration to get you going in the right direction. And dare I say, to help you appreciate and love your midlife body right where it is. Because I want to have a long, healthy life that enables me to reinvent myself as many times as I like. Today, on the Reinventing Rebels podcast, I'm sharing my 3 favorite podcasts that I listen to regularly that motivate me to work hard on improving my health and fitness so that I can be amazing at 60, 70, 80, and beyond. Lean in and listen to where I draw my inspiration to keep things healthy as I age, and I hope it inspires you to do the same. Welcome to Reinventing Rebels. Stories of brave and unapologetic women, 50 to 90 years young, who have boldly reimagined life on their own terms to find new purpose and possibilities. I'm your host, Wendy Battles. Ready for a dose of inspiration? Let's get to it. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Reinventing Rebels podcast. If you are a first-time listener, welcome aboard. I am so glad you're here. This is the place to come for information and inspiration about how we can reinvent ourselves no matter your age or stage. I focus on women between 50 and 90 and their amazing reinvention stories. But the truth of the matter is that this information is applicable to all of us, no matter where you are in your life, no matter how old you are. We all have the ability to reinvent ourselves if we choose to do so. Reinventing Rebels is a top 2% globally rated podcast with amazing listeners like you who are serious about getting on to creating the most amazing life. Like my guest last week, Randy Kay. Did you have a chance to listen to our episode together? Did you hear her inspiring story? Have you heard what she's doing at 70? She is just getting started. If you heard the episode, you heard her say that I'm only 70. Who knows what I could get up to in the next 30 years? And that is the essence and spirit of a reinvention rebel. They see possibility. They see opportunities. They're willing to be curious, try new things, see where it leads, and shift course if necessary. So this is all about how we can empower you to either get started or continue on your reinvention rebel journey. Today, we're talking about how we can reclaim our midlife bodies and feel inspired to be healthy in the midst of changes in our bodies. And it is totally possible. Now, I get it. It's perimenopause or menopause, hot flashes, night sweats, mood changes, all those things. I have been there and sometimes I still am. And I have to tell you, I've spent way too much time in my head mourning how my body used to be. Remember when I was in my 20s and my 30s, yada, yada, yada. You get the idea. I've done all kinds of mental gymnastics about my changing body. Yet this is the body that I have, and this body is pretty amazing, even though it's different. And yes, there is this narrative about how our bodies are when we get to midlife and beyond. There's often a limiting narrative about that. But on the other side of the coin, there is also a narrative about how in midlife and as we're older, we can be strong and fit. We can feel really good in our bodies. We can even feel great in our bodies. And we can transform them in powerful ways if we are so inspired. Yes, it's true. We lose muscle mass as our hormones slow down that begins in midlife. But it's also true that we can stay strong, that we can still build muscle, and we can help protect ourselves from many, many diseases if we're willing to invest the time and energy to do that. And yes, it is work to not only be healthy, but to be thriving in the best way possible. So impossible? Not at all. Something that we can figure out? Absolutely. I am so up for that journey, and I hope you are too. And I thought it'd be fun for me to share a little bit about what inspires me in my midlife journey with my body. And in fact, there are 3 podcasts that I listen to regularly that truly motivate and inspire me to do a little more, to be proactive, to think about how certain things are affecting me when I do them. And I'm going to talk about that today. But I want to begin by telling you a little bit about my journey with my body and fitness and weight. So growing up, I have to tell you, I was like a clumsy kid. I was not athletically oriented. I have all kinds of stories about how I had to repeat beginner's one dance because I wasn't good at it. I wanted so badly to be on the dance team in high school, and I didn't make that. And I just don't come from an especially, well, at all, an athletically inclined family. So growing up, I never was that confident about playing sports or, even being super fit. But in my 20s, I started exercising more. And in my 30s and 40s, I really got into strength training, weightlifting, getting into really good shape. And in my 50s, I still exercise regularly, not to maybe the same extent. And of course, I can see the changes. I can see a little added weight around the middle. I can see the loss of muscle mass that happens as your hormones slow down. It's all natural. But the question is, what can I do to be in optimal shape, given that midlife is here? And there are a whole bunch of things that we can do. I picked these 3 podcasts because I love them so much. I love them for different reasons. And it has to do with 3 key things. Powerful information that is informing my thinking, number 1. Inspiration to keep me going in the direction I want to go. And 3, this idea of a mindset shift. We can shift our mindset to more positive, optimal thinking that can help us as we navigate midlife. So my 3 podcasts that I love, and I'll mention, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And there are so many others, of course, that I don't have time to mention today. But these are 3 that really stand out for me as especially helpful as I navigate midlife. All right, so let's start with number 1, this idea of midlife information. We know how to be healthy when we're younger. We know we should eat, a healthy diet. What's true throughout life, right? We should eat a healthy diet. I often eat a diet that's very related to the Mediterranean diet. So more lean protein, lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, etc. I've been a health coach. Most of us know what to do and what to eat. Doing it, of course, is another story, but we are smart people and we know what to do. But do you know in midlife that our nutritional needs change? What we're doing that's super healthy as we're younger needs to be tweaked a bit. And that is why I love this podcast called the Gruff Talk podcast with Barbara Hannah Grufferman. And the reason why I came across this podcast is because of my friend Mary Newell. Many of you heard her story a couple of seasons ago. In season 3, Mary started running at 55 after spending most of her life not being very athletic and overweight. She found a passion for running. She's now 72 and has run in marathons all around the world and says she's in the best shape of her life at 72, which is the most amazing, cool thing. She is so strong. She is so fierce in her body and so empowered. Anyway, after Mary ran the last New York Marathon, she was on Barbara's podcast because they're both runners and they were talking about the experience of it. And that's how I first heard of Gruff Talk. And I started listening and got hooked. It is fantastic. Barbara has written several different books. She is an expert in health and nutrition. But what I really love about this podcast is that it's specifically targeted for midlife women. A lot of the focus is about health and nutrition for our midlife changing bodies and things that we need to do, things that we need to be eating. So for example, she's had on all kinds of different experts that have talked about supplementation during midlife, what to eat at midlife. And really this idea that she talked about with several different guests about how in midlife, because we are experiencing muscle loss and we want to maintain as much of our muscle mass as we can, that we need to eat protein. Well, we all know that, right? We all know that protein is one of the key things to building our muscle. But one of the key things in midlife is eating protein, not just waiting until dinner and eating this really protein-packed meal, but that we want to start getting protein in the morning. So when we eat breakfast, which could be in many different ways. It could be in a vegetarian way. It could be with lean meat. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. That's part of the puzzle for each of us to figure out. But just this notion that we should be eating more of certain things, in middle age, that there are certain supplements that are really important as we age. She had a great episode about knees and knee health because I've got some creaky arthritic knees sometimes, and it was eye-opening. So this is a fantastic podcast if you are interested in midlife issues and how we can really flourish and be our best. Again, it's called Gruff Talk with Barbara Hannah Grufferman. I highly recommend it. Plus, she's really an engaging host. I really like it. She's got this warm personality. It's so easy to listen to her. And she, again, has really great information and great guests that I've learned so much that I'm already applying. That's that notion of in middle age, we need information for our changing bodies. That's going to be important. All right. So that's podcast number 1 that I highly recommend. The second podcast is about inspiration. We all need inspiration. And there are tons of inspiring podcasts that I listen to. There is not enough time to mention them all today. But I'm talking about one specific one today that I love. And again, it's interesting how we find people, I guess, at just the right time when we need them, because my friend Delia, who you'll meet in an upcoming episode, is this amazing reinvention rebel at 55. I recently interviewed her and I can't wait to share her story. And she ended up appearing on this podcast called GYSB Talk. And GYSB is Get Your Sexy Back. And who can't love that, right? And the host is Carla Palmer, who I have to tell you just feels like a girlfriend. It feels like I don't know Carla, but it feels like I've known her for a long time. I love her approach. I love her story. I love how she lost 55 pounds, really got onto this idea of changing her life through health and fitness, and just shares really interesting stories. She talks a lot about herself and her journey in midlife and what she's doing, but it's something that's so relatable to me. And I think that's one of the keys is I get inspired by people I can relate to, even if I don't know them, but listening to them and having this shared connection, feeling like if I lived in LA too, that we could be friends. It's that kind of thing. So she's got some really great episodes, both about her own journey, so solo episodes, but also some really interesting guest episodes and different experts on there, including people just like you and me, like my friend Delia telling her story about her fitness journey. So that's one that falls into that inspiration category. We need midlife information, like Gruff Talk. We need midlife inspiration, like Get Your Sexy Back. And then the third podcast that I'm a big fan of falls into the category of mindset shift. Midlife is a complicated time. It kind of seems like it shouldn't be as complicated, that if you've got kids, they grow up, they leave, they are out on their own, and perhaps you're doing more of what you want to do because you're less busy with them. But the reality is, it's a time when we often have many different demands. It could be still from our kids. It could be from our aging parents. It could be from work or relationships. You name it. It could be anything. Each of us has our own midlife story, but it ends up being a time that is much more complex than I expected. And that's okay. It's just trying to figure it out. And I'm the kind of person I can get all up in my head, worried about things, going over things, instead of just leaning in and trying to shift my mindset. So my favorite podcast, which is not about midlife per se, but I'm applying it in that way. So my favorite podcast about mindset shifts is the Mel Robbins Podcast. Some of you, I'm sure, are already listening to Mel Robbins, and you know that she is an amazing human being. Some of you may never have heard of her before, but she's written all kinds of best-selling books. Recently started this podcast, and I love it. I love it. And the reason why I love it is, again, Mel is that friend in my head. She's 54, but she is so relatable. She lays it all out on the table. She talks about everything. She talks about her own fits and starts and stumbles along the way and her epiphanies and all the times that are really hard. She is not your average person that's really well known who just packages it all up nicely. This is getting into all the ins and outs of her life, as well as hearing from all kinds of experts. So there's a great episode recently on health with Dr. Mark Hyman, who I love, who I remember from when I was in nutrition school. He's a specialist in functional health. So that was a great episode. Again, really great information about how we can take care of our bodies as we age. But there's all kinds of episodes that inspire me. And honestly, they get me thinking. They get me thinking about midlife and what I can do with intention, how I can shift my mindset, how I can get into a space of possibility. And I'm generally in there. Not always. It is so incredibly helpful. And what she says is that she wants people to apply all the information she shares to their own life. And that's what I love about it. It's information that you can boil down and figure out, how can I use this information to help me grow? So if you have a growth mindset and you're open to these ideas, you will love this podcast. All about shifting our mind, opening our mind, seeing new possibilities. The most recent episode I listened to was about how we can go about having difficult conversations with people in our lives. So easy for me to be like, maybe not today, maybe tomorrow or next year, next week or next year, right? But what if we faced it? What if we had some tools to help us? What if we felt empowered? That's what this is about. So information, midlife information. I love me some Gruff Talk, Barbara Hannah Grufferman. Midlife inspiration with my sister friend, Carla Palmer, who is inspiring, is the friend in my head, and just has this joyful spirit that I totally connect with. Plus, my Women of Color podcasters, I always want to be talking about the women that do this that I love. She's one of them. And then Mindset Shift. That's Mel Robbins. That's her podcast. It is fabulous. Not necessarily focused on midlife, but it's information you can apply at any point in your life that is powerful and impactful. So those are my 3 go-to podcasts that I listen to regularly. I know that Mel's comes out on Monday and Thursday. I know when Barbara's comes out, etc. So I just have them in my queue. They come up, and in the mornings of those days, I start listening. So my question for you is, what is inspiring you? What's information that you can go to, in addition to these resources, that can help you reinvent your midlife body in whatever that means for you? Right? It means something different for each of us. I would love for you to try on this idea that we can reinvent our bodies and love our bodies. Yes, our bodies are changing. Yes, they're different than they were, but so what? They're still amazing, and we can still lean into that. And even if they're not perfect, because seriously, who has a perfect body? Even if they're not what we want them to be, we can move in that direction. And these are resources that can help you. I bet you've got some of your own too. I'd love for you to weigh in, shoot me a quick email, tell me what you think. But I want to leave you with this idea that anything is possible at any age. If you have not listened to Mary's episode, I've linked to it in the show notes, Mary Newell and her amazing fitness journey, starting at 55, going strong at 72. It's a reminder that we can have any kind of body we want if we're willing to put in the time and effort. Because we know it's not just going to come naturally, right? We got to work at it. But in my mind, it is so worth it. So what will you do in the next week to think about your midlife body? What will you do to appreciate where you are? And what will you do to take a step in the direction that you want to go? I'm linking to all these fantastic podcasts in the show notes for easy access. And I cannot wait to see you back here next week for another episode of the Reinvention Rebels podcast. I will mention that this idea of reinventing our midlife bodies is sometimes about doing it scared. It's scary to jump off and try something new and you're not sure how it's going to work out. But when we're open and we're curious, anything is possible. So if you're thinking, I want to create that do it scared, do it anyway mindset, I have to tell you that I'm linking in the show notes my Do It Scared cheat sheet that you can download and start asking yourself some questions about how you can kind of get in that mode. So if you're thinking, I want to reinvent my midlife body too, this is a great point of departure to get you thinking about it. So you'll see all the details in the show notes. Until next time, keep shining your light. The world needs you and all that you have to offer. Hey, Rebel. If this episode inspired you to think about what's possible in your life, I'll share a little secret. Any of us can reinvent ourselves no matter where we are in our lives, any age, any stage. We just have to decide to get started. Here's a super simple way for you to get going with your reinvention dreams. Download my audio, 5 questions to spark your curiosity and inspire your reinvention journey. I share 5 key questions that will spur your thinking, help you uncover your dreams, and motivate you to take action. Because if not now, when? Details in the show notes. Let's get inspired together.